Welcome to the Right Call Podcast. Simar in the house. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you, Elliot?
Fucking amazing. All black everything for you. You're stealing my vibe. That's my thing.
It's a sad day.
It's a sad day. It is a kind of gloomy day. This is why I'm wearing a leather jacket. I'm trying to be like a cool little a rock star.
Do you want to know why it's a sad day?
Please tell me. Tell me.
Today is the day Stephen Harper was replaced by Justin Trudeau. So for me, as a conservative, it's a pretty sad day because that's when essentially the country started to fall apart, and we're gonna get into that. I have a really great episode prepared for our listeners today. Wow, we're gonna do a deep dive on Canada, and it's not pretty.
We should play taps. You know taps?
What
It's
is
the
that?
song of da, 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 da. You know they play that at like military funeral, and it's like do do do. No.
No.
Go on. But yeah,
We could try it next time.
I'm gonna try to lighten up the mood with a little bit of a pink hat.
Yeah.
I am channeling my inner LGBTQI2SWXYZ.
Excellent work.
Thank you. So, real quick, speaking of, we're going to do our version of land acknowledgements today, which is we have a Patreon. Please, everyone, subscribe $8 a month. It helps fund the channel. We are independent, and we do not owe our ass to any corporate overlords. So, please pay. This is me begging you, basically. But no, honestly, we do have one amazing subscriber so far. And Celine, who uses Proton Mail, which, by the way, I still think you're like some sketchy guy, like creeping. Either that or my father. But this is amazing. I love it. All right.
Thank you, Celine.
Thank you, Celine. Yes. And rest in peace, Stephen Harper. You know what? I was having this conversation today.
He's still alive?
Yes, I know. Rest in peace, him being in office.
His political career.
His political. Yes, please stay alive. You know, I was having a discussion today with a friend of mine who actually, he messaged me. He's like, yeah, you know what? I missed the Stephen Harper days. And I replied, I missed the boring Canadian days when politics in Canada was just boring. It was great. There was no issues.
The dollar was strong. The debt was lower. Housing was affordable. Immigration was well managed. You know, people were generally much happier than they are today. And I'm not just saying that. The numbers show that. And we're going to get into those numbers today.
Absolutely. You know, when I traveled the world, people always say, you're from Canada. It's such a wonderful place. I want to visit. I want to see it. And I'm like, yeah, the Canada you think of is Canada from like 40 years ago. Yeah. We're still surfing on our reputation worldwide, by the way. The one thing you don't know about Canada is, we'll dive into it. Okay, so today we're going to talk about a few points. Land ownership rights are being questioned in BC, a very troubling Supreme Court of British Columbia decision. And I'm going to have my little bit of talks also about just the good old, it's about time we get over our past and move into the future. A little bit of talk on quality of life index, because you talk about how Canada's been boop, 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 going down the shitter. Well, there's quality of life is also showing that. Want to touch a little bit on diversity of thoughts and how it seems the right has more diversity of thought than the left. Who would have thought? The Islamification of the UK. This one is going to rile up some people, but we have to. You know why we have to? Because we're still free to say what we want in Canada, whereas the UK, they cannot. What we're about to talk will get us arrested in the UK, but we're not in the UK, so we will talk about it for all our brothers and sisters overseas in the Caliphate of the United Caliphate. And finally, I did want to talk a little bit about the cost of living, a little comparison for food and whatnot. What about you? What's on the agenda today?
Well, today, since it's been officially a decade that the Liberals have been in power, I really wanted to do an analysis on Canada in general, starting from, business investment, going into the housing situation, going into the morale of the people, going into, just how our streets are looking, how Toronto Union is looking these days, and how the Liberals are responding to these issues, or not responding at all to these issues.
Or just surfing over it.
I have some data about Canada on the international stage. I have a very troubling headline that surfaced my feed this week, and we got a lot to get into, and then we could talk a little bit, like you said, about the UK and immigration in Canada. That's a lot of the topics we're going to be covering today. So why don't you start with...
Well, let's talk about land ownership, because something just happened. in British Columbia that could upend the entire system in which our country operates private property rights. See, one of the cornerstone of capitalism and honestly democracy is that whatever you own lawfully, well, it belongs to you lawfully, and you're entitled to protect it, you're entitled to use it peacefully, you're entitled to enjoy it. And it cannot just be stolen, claimed, or taken by force or through other means by other people from you, right? That's the purpose of it. And we love real estate in Canada. We are real estate fiends in Canada. That is the cornerstone of our pretty much our economy. Side note, not a productive asset, so that's why we suck. But the Supreme Court of British Columbia announced that a claim, let's see here, I wrote it down. I don't even have it written down. Sorry, mon français sort. So it was a dispute, actually the longest court battle ever between the Cowichan tribes. Sorry, fuck. There you go. I'm going to get canceled. But the Cowichan tribes versus Canada in the British Supreme Court, which made some important decisions which could negatively affect the titles of the property owners in the city of Richmond, British Columbia. Effectively, this tribe claims that their land is theirs and was not ceded, right? The whole unceded territory thing. So the chain and the title of ownership going back hundreds of years could have been erroneous. It could have been negated, effectively making all owners of property today null and void, and the property being given back to these tribal individuals. This would upend the entire real estate market. Banks would be hesitant to put mortgages on property because the whole fundamental nature of a mortgage is that you own it, it is immutable, it is set in stone, and we can take a guarantee against it in the event of you defaulting on your payment. It would upend the real estate market, the costs of housing, the ability for people to peacefully enjoy it, to rent out their properties as well. Heck, even municipalities now, can they truly collect municipal taxes because it's based on property value, right?
And ownership.
It's ludicrous. And what blows my mind is that you have one fucking judge who came up with this decision. Now, it's important to note, currently, it is being appealed in the appellate's court, and we do have to give it time to go through the due process. But if this is kept up, if this is upheld, I suppose it'd probably go to the Supreme Court of Canada. But even if it goes there, and it is upheld in the Supreme Court of Canada, I mean, what the fuck is that going to look like for our country now? Where any ancestral tribes can just lay claims to everything. I mean, they'll lay claims to all the country at this point, no?
So what happened exactly? Like how many housing units did this affect, or how much property did this really affect?
From what I looked into it, I don't have the numbers right here, but it's like several hundred acres of land. It's not like just a corner lot, you know what I mean? This is several hundred acres in a specific subsect of Richmond, British Columbia.
Okay.
And this also will affect a city water treatment plant, because they were planning to build or expand their water treatment plant on this land, which now they can't do because of this ruling. And everything has just kind of been up in a limbo. So much so that the city of Richmond itself decided to send a letter to the property owners in the city, warning them of the Supreme Court decision of BC and telling them, and I quote, the court has declared Aboriginal title to your property, which may compromise the status and validity of your ownership.
Can you imagine investing, hundreds of thousands of dollars into productive real estate and just having it seized with no recourse? Well, recourse, I guess, but...
And then they continue saying, this was mandated without any prior notice to the landowners. The entire area outlined in green is claimed on appeal by the Cowichan First Nations. My man, these land acknowledgements, by the way, which started just a few years ago, are it started with, let's acknowledge the unceded territory, and now it's now, give me your fucking house by force.
It's mine.
Yeah, that's what happens, by the way, with virtue signaling. It's always just a little bit, right? It started off with, for example, gay rights. We just want to love equally. We just want to be free to love who we want. I'm cool with that. Now it's let me fucking strip naked in front of your kid, and we're not actually pedophile, we are minor attracted individuals. Like, that's what it led to, right? Now we're just like, let's just virtue signal and say that, before a hockey game, we are acknowledging that this is unceded territory of the whatever fucking tribe, and now it's, what, these tribes are going to take your fucking dwelling by force. It always leads, it's give me an inch, they will take a mile.
Yeah, absolutely.
Dude, it is insane. And the one thing that pisses me off about this is the constant think of, this is unceded territory, we did not agree, you took this against due process. No, dude. No, not at all. First of all, Canadians came to this undeveloped nation. It was undeveloped, right? Sure, there were tribes of Aboriginals that lived here. It was not, first of all of Canada. They were small little sections. And second of all, it was not developed. And this applies to America as well. It's important to note, because America has the exact same fucking issues. Our pioneers, our citizens, our forefathers, they pioneered and staked their lives on the frontier to create the civilization we have today. At great cost, many people died. Many people fucking had to lose their entire belongings. They went and into these remote, dangerous areas to create the civilizations we have today. This would have never been done, by the way, under the Aboriginal tribes. Ever. We did it. And on top of that, we're being nice. Don't pay taxes. We're going to give you a bunch of money. We're going to give you a bunch of special privileges just because we're trying to appease you. And that's not enough. Now it's, give us the fucking land back. Okay, well, how about we just go scorch earth? Scorch earth. We just burn everything down. What are you going to do? You're going to go back to fucking hunting on your fucking horseback? That's not what they're going to do. And and just to close this real quick, I saw this quote from a movie, but God is it good. And I want to know what you think of this, but God is it good. It's a quote from Colonel Miles in a movie called Bury My Heart at Wounded Knees, right? Wounded Knees, which was a dark stain on American history when a bunch of army soldiers opened fire on a tribe and killed a bunch of people. And he says the following to a tribal chief. This is the colonel talking to the chief, saying, "No matter what your legends say, you didn't sprout from the plains like spring grasses, and you didn't coalesce from the ether. You came out of the Minnesota woodlands, armed to the teeth, and set upon your fellow men. You massacred the Kiowa, the Omaha, the Polka, the Ottawa, the Pawnees, without mercy, and yet you claimed the Black Hills as private preserve bequeathed to you by the Great Spirit. The proposition that you were a peaceable people before the appearance of the white man is the most fanciful legends of all. You were killing each other for hundreds of moons before the first whites stepped foot on this continent. You conquered those tribes lusting for their game and their lands, just as we have now conquered you for no less noble of a cause." There we go. I don't know, man.
Drop the mic.
Bam! But, isn't that what it is?
Well, it's human nature in a nutshell, right? That's humans have historically, it's always been survival of the fittest. That's just the way of the world. That's the way of the jungle. And, we have this beautiful society that we can now live in peacefully and ignore a lot of those laws of the jungle because we don't have to deal with them on a day-to-day basis. And so I think that's what's at play here. It's just...
Well, that's humanity, like you said.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter which corner of the world you go to. There's always been a local population that tried to hold on to the land and a outside group trying to conquer it. This applies to the Indian fucking history. This applies to European history. This applies to Chinese history. This applies to Native American history. This is a universal truth. Humans have thrived and strived for resources, taking it by force and through sheer violence from one another for eons.
Absolutely. And it happens to this day. Our government does this to us insidiously. And so these things happen, and it's the way of the world. And unfortunately, we cannot solve the problems of 300, 400 years ago. We cannot resolve those issues. There's terrible things that happen. We're not going to just, sweep that under the rug. And I totally get where you're coming from. But, from their side, they feel that atrocities were committed to them and they need special concessions in order to live in their peace, which,
But don't they get some? I mean, again, they're not taxed. They have specific pieces of land that they are allowed to manage that are extraterritorial in a way, right? They manage it how they want. If you live there, you're not taxed.
Yeah.
You're exempt from sales taxes when you buy things anywhere else in the country. You're allowed to migrate or to travel between Canada and the US without a passport. It's considered just one big nation for you. You have so many fucking advantages.
And that's the thing about Canada, is Canada's become the country where we can actually live in harmony and peace with different cultures, and that we cannot just keep looking at the past and make decisions based on the past. We have to look at the current situation now, where we're at now with our relationship with Indigenous people, with people from other cultures, and how are they integrating into this country that we have built, this civilization that we have. And we need to look forward and look at the current state of Canada, look at the current state of the Canadian dollar, and all these modern issues, these issues today that are really taking a lot of space and causing a lot of damage to the average citizen. And those are the issues we should be focused on, not, conceding this land that may have been yours 400 years ago and your family lived here 400 years ago. That's not the focus. The focus should be on how are we going to empower the Indigenous people? How are we going to integrate them into this modern economy, this global economy where everyone is trading, different countries are trading? How do we bring these Indigenous people and create opportunity with them, work with them, create businesses with them, and thrive alongside them? There's no reason to cast away and create division. We should all be focused on improving our economy, improving these things, and growing businesses and thriving.
Absolutely. But here's the reality: when you give special privileges to people, they also start becoming entitled to those privileges. They believe in entitlement. I used to work in northern Alberta. I worked in a bitumen, the tar sands, right? And I work with some old timers, some old farts that have, experience in all kinds of sectors. And one of them was my foreman. Shout out to you, Buddy Shearsmith. Fucking love that guy. What a good guy. His name was Buddy, literally. Best name in the world. From Alberta, all right? And he worked in the diamond mines many, many, many generations ago. And he was telling me the story about this one time they had a lease, like a diamond lease, on a piece of land that belonged to some tribe, some native band. And the company had to negotiate a crazy deal to be able to exploit the diamonds there. And one of the deal was that they had to pay royalties to every individual, every citizen of that band. Now, this amounted, the royalties, kid you the fuck not, to something like $100,000+ per year in royalty given to every single man and woman of that fucking tribe, right? $100,000 like 40 years ago. It's insane, the amount of money. Now, here's what it led to. Instead of the local natives being welcoming and open-armed and happy about the fact that they didn't have to lift a finger, they didn't have to work, they didn't have to do fuck all, and earned more than 99% of Canadians at that time, instead, they started buying a bunch of trucks and toys with it, and they would taunt the workers with them. So for example, this guy bought this huge pickup truck and got a big decal in the back saying, "Fuck the white man" on it. And it's like, a little ironic, because considering it's the white man who bought you that pickup truck. Or they would try to kick people out of the bars and the local restaurants whenever they were on, off days and enjoying their downtime. They were incredibly confrontational and antagonistic against the whites who were there to work. So the problem is, again, if you give special privileges to people, they believe that they are special, and then they don't respect you. What I believe, the true reconciliation and truth is, bad things happened, everyone's guilty of it, let's fucking shake hands and work together going forward as equals, period, not as more than others. I don't know, that's my take.
Well, that's what you just shared. We can draw a really big parallel with immigration today, and how immigrants are extremely entitled to our culture and entitled to the rights and the privileges of the culture without having to had contributed, like they just arrived. And we can cover some and the crimes that a lot of these people are committing, and their behaviors, and how they're not assimilating with the modern culture.
Yes.
And do you want to look at some of these things that popped up on my feed this week?
Show me the feed. Do you need a TV?
Yes, I do.
Let's turn that bad boy on.
So let's start in Brampton.
Ooh, you're allowed to say what Brampton is.
Absolutely.
What is it? There you go. I can't say that.
This is a rental ad I saw for a girl in Brampton. Someone was renting their room,
Yeah.
And
I'm scared. Do I
it's
want to see this?
I think the viewers do want to see this. I
Okay.
really do think they would want to see this. Just let me connect here. So just check out this room rental ad for girl in Brampton, okay? Read description. Read fully before messaging. Only for girls. Private or shared accommodation in a much affordable rent of just 300 Canadian dollars. Location, 5 minutes walkable distance to Bramley City Centre Mall. Accommodation type, apartment, private or share roomed as per preference. One room in a 2-bedroom condo is available. Rental option 1, private, 500 Canadian dollars. Rental option 2, shared, 300 Canadian dollars a month. Max 2 people in a room. So far, sounds like a normal ad, right?
Seems okay.
Seems straightforward.
I'm very apprehensive. I'm wondering what's coming.
You should be concerned about rental option number 3.
Oh, give me that special option.
For those who are okay with friends with benefits relationship, will get the below perks. Complete rent is free. Food expenses are also free. I can spend $200 Canadian per month on shopping for you. In the second room, an Indian boy, me, is staying. Note number 2, regular friends with benefits relationship, it will be maintained private and confidential, same as expected from your side too.
Sounds like a good deal.
I mean, it's kind of a horrifying deal if you ever
Holy fuck.
if you ever consider the some of the domestic violence statistics that come out of India.
Well, for sure.
This kind of stuff is horrifying, and it's completely, it goes completely against Canadian culture, Canadian values, like living in our society. I cannot imagine a fresh Indian immigrant 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, in like my father's time, putting an ad like this with no shame. It's completely pathetic to post an ad like this. And and I don't want to just like paint everyone with one brush, but this stuff happens all the time. Let's take a look at this, okay?
I'm just gonna say, man, I'm gonna, in Canada, we can identify as whatever we want, right? So I'm identifying as a girl. I'm gonna get free rent and food and $200 shopping spree, baby.
Yeah, $200. You can buy like,
I can go to the Dollarama with that. I can go to the dollar store.
Look at this headline, okay? 39-year-old Ravi Turbani from Scarborough has been charged with two counts of SA after allegedly offering rides to women before assaulting them in his car. Okay, and this is the kind of stuff, like we're talking about the ad that this guy posted. How do you know that that's even going to be a safe environment to live in?
Probably not.
Check this out. Vaughan man accused of kidnapping and assaulting woman while pretending to be rideshare driver. A 30-year-old man, Mohammed Shakil Zolmeh, he's brandishing the name of his prophet and committing these kinds of crimes, moving into another country, has been charged with kidnapping, SA, and uttering threats after allegedly posing as a rideshare driver to target a woman in Vaughan. These kinds of headlines, we see them all the time. You look at some of these statistics in the UK, all right? UK rape statistics. Sorry, UK SA statistics. The UK now has the highest figure of rapes in Europe. The UK recorded 71,227 last year, a nearly 9-fold increase from 7,801 back in year 2000. Okay, the SA rate has reached 114 per 100,000 people, surpassing Sweden's for the first time.
And this is something because Sweden has turned into the rape capital of Europe, and a grenade capital too, by the way, in a city called Malmö. I've been. I survived. And then I fled back to Copenhagen.
And Tommy Robinson. Do you know Tommy Robinson?
Of course.
I'm going to take a second to take
But do you want to talk about the UK? Because I think the UK, we need to help our brethren from overseas. Do you have more stuff on the UK? Because since you brought it up to the UK, I think it's a good time.
Well, it all starts with Canada issuing a travel advisory against the UK, which
nice.
It's kind of pathetic because Canada and the UK are applying a lot of the same policies around immigration, are applying a lot of the same policies when it comes to economics. Mm-hmm. The way they print money, deficit spend into oblivion, have these extremely far left this extremely far left activism that's happening in the UK contrasts very directly with what we're seeing in Canada. And so when I see Canada issuing a UK travel advisory,
yeah, I know.
it's kind of ironic to me, because it's really essentially foreshadowing what's about to happen in Canada in maybe 5 to 10 years,
Well, our
if we
crime
continue the
rates.
same pathway as the UK is right
Oh,
now.
for sure. I think the United Kingdom. Well, okay, there's a difference between the UK and Canada. The UK took the Islamic route, and we took the Indian route, right?
Well, we've taken both routes
Yeah,
in a
but
lot of ways. If you look at some of the,
we do have a lot of
yeah,
Islam immigration. But you know that this year, 2025, Canada became the second country with the most Indians in the world after, well,
India
India.
itself,
It used to be Pakistan,
probably the UK too.
and no, we're higher than the UK.
Oh my God.
Yeah, Canada is now officially the second country with the highest Indian diaspora,
Wow.
behind.
Not inherently a bad thing. The Indian culture is very hardworking. Like historically, they work very hard. And
Well, it depends on the
me coming
caste,
from an
right?
Indian background,
Isn't it like, because don't forget India? Well, I mean, don't forget, you fucking know it from there. Jeez, I'm not gonna mansplain that to you, but there's like huge cultural differences between the North, the South, and the Sikhs and the other kind of
yeah.
faith and religions,
Look,
right?
from my understanding, the immigrants that moved to Western democracies, in the 70s, 80s, 90s, and probably even a little before that, we've been migrating for a long time. And so a lot of them very much integrated into Canadian culture, into American culture, into UK culture, into European culture.
Yeah.
They all came, it doesn't matter whether you came from a Muslim background, Hindu background, Sikh background, Buddhist background, doesn't matter what religion from the Middle East and India you represent or you follow. Most of these immigrants, a lot of them came to these countries and just started businesses, started working, getting into entrepreneurship. And getting into entrepreneurship is one of the best ways, I believe, to become more tolerant of other cultures, because when you start working in business, you start having, non-Kufar clients or, non-Sikh clients or non-Hindu clients. You start to realize that, listen, we are working in a society here. We need to blend with with white people. We need to blend with Indian people. We need to blend with Chinese people. We need to blend with Italian people. We need to blend with Greek people.
For sure.
All these different cultures, and they all share one thing in common: we need to feed our families. So they ascribe to their religious values. They'll pray on the weekends. They'll go to their religious temple or place of worship, and come Monday, they're back at working with all the other people.
For sure.
And so this changes your perspective on working with other people. And it's something that really unites Canada and the United States and the UK, that we're all working in the same economy. And we instead of fighting over religious dogma of like hundreds or thousands of years ago, we work together in unison and we celebrate each other's cultures. We respect each other's cultures and we, enjoy them.
Do you find, and maybe you know this, maybe you don't. I don't at all, so that's why I'm asking. Do you know, again, because like India is a very culturally diverse country, right? Huge, lots of culture. Like, is there a specific subset of Indians that come to Canada?
I'm not an expert on
No.
India, so I'm not going to take and comment on it. The caste system does exist in India, and in rural India probably still exists until today.
But like, for example, you're from a Sikh background.
It doesn't change the fact that, the immigrants will come to a new country, see opportunity and say, let's just throw all that stuff back there. We'll leave those problems at home and let's just work with these people, because they seem to be doing a lot better than we are back there.
Absolutely. But we discussed this in the last episode, though.
Yeah.
The reality is that there's also, and I'm going to take the words of Vrillium, a new creator that I just found, and this guy's pumping out dope-ass content. Really like him. And he made a really good video that talks about the work versus the canon. And I'm not going to summarize everything, but the canon is kind of like the bedrock, the foundation of a culture, and everything else is built upon it. Now, the reality is that different cultures have different canon. And last week we spoke about how, like, if you took all of Norwegians and put them in the Congo, and you took all the Congolese and you put them in Norway, well, there's a good chance that in 10 years, Congo would become a first world developed nation, and whereas Norway could perhaps not be one of the richest countries in the world as it is right now, because the canon, the culture, the root of the people is to be industrious, hardworking, etc., right? I don't know much about India, but I know, for example, the Sikh, it's a warrior background. It's a background of altruism and of doing what's right and of being good members of society. So as such, Sikh immigrants perhaps carry that canon of being people that can integrate and that can add value.
And in my opinion, they carry the responsibility to carry that reputation, to maintain it.
But then obviously there's other cultures that are not as, or the canon is not quite the same, right? I have no shame in saying that there's certain cultures, for example, it's very much scammy or very much all for yourself. It's all about how can you one up others. Like, for example, every time I come across someone from like Algeria, I'm always scared of getting scammed, you know?
Oh yeah, you get scammed by Indian, what's it called? Call centers that are trying to scam you.
That as well, right? So there's a certain level. Now, obviously, there's horrible people all over the world in every culture and in every civilization, but there is an ethos that is still carried a little bit more, right? The same thing as a Spaniard taking a siesta, or a fucking German driving fast on the Autobahn, right? There's like certain cultural things.
I think what it comes down to is the level of poverty in those countries. When you come from a poor country and you have no hope and no opportunity, scamming, short-term gain becomes your way of life.
Yeah.
And
yeah, but is that so? Because you take I've seen plenty of documentaries, people going to say Afghanistan, right? They're poor as fuck, but they're some of the most welcoming individuals ever, and they will never scam you. I'm not talking about the Taliban. I'm talking about the tribal people, okay? Although even the Taliban now, they're kind of doing, because it's important to separate it, right? There's a difference between the government and the people. Okay, take Cuba. Cuba's dirt poor. There you go. I have no shame in saying this because I've been to Cuba many times. The Cubans hate their government. The Cubans hate the communism, the communist government. But God, they love their country, and they're good, fucking hardworking, open, friendly, welcoming individuals, right?
I think Iran is a great example of that.
Too,
Iranians, they leave Iran. They leave a lot of times their entire religious background, their beliefs, the whole way that the Iranian regime has set their very extremist laws. They abandon that and come to Canada, and they say, we want no part of that anymore. And so they completely reform. So what you're saying, really, it applies to a lot of cultures where people come to a new place with new and want to have a fresh start. That's just really what it comes down to. They just want a fresh start. They left their country for a reason, and they want a fresh start. Those are the old school OG immigrants that really built Canada, really built the Canadian economy, thrive in small businesses. We live in Montreal. It's a great city. We have, I think, the most restaurants per capita in the world.
I thought you were going to say the most orange cones.
Yeah, that too. But we have some of the most...
second most restaurants per capita behind Manhattan.
Okay, and a lot of those are multicultural restaurants where the cultures are sharing their cuisine, which is, something that we all share together. We could all share together in a positive way. It's sharing our cuisine.
Absolutely.
It's a beautiful thing.
The only thing we're missing in Montreal is a good Mexican restaurant. I feel like there's no good Mexican restaurant here.
There's a few.
They're not good. They're not like
Florida Mexican restaurants.
Florida will be more like Cuban. Texas though. Mexican. California, or just go to Mexico, right? But yes, please continue, sir.
Do you want to talk about Canada?
Well, we can, but I mean, were we on the UK? Was there more about the UK?
Oh, no. I would love for you to finish your piece on the UK.
I wasn't sure if it was more about the UK, because you talk about how it became like the sexual assault capital, right?
Yeah.
And, okay, why do you think that is? Like, what's the root cause?
Well, the statistics are clean. They're very clear.
So what is it? You say it.
I gotta take a second to pull out the video. Yeah, we are free speech. I'm gonna take a couple of seconds to take out the video.
Yeah. Take your time.
I hate Instagram clips.
Muslims make up 5 to 6% of the UK population, but 90% of the gang of young children in groups of men is Muslim men. 90% from 5 to 6%. 30% of the men convicted are called Mohammed. Now, these are facts. Okay, they're facts. We need to talk about them. We need to understand there are 40,000 British Muslims on a terror watch list. 40,000. 1.2 million British Muslims want Sharia law in the UK. This is a problem. 66% of British Muslims would not report on another Muslim who is going to join ISIS. All of these issues are problems. Why? And when you try and talk about Islam, I just want to set the record straight again. Because I've grown up in Luton, I do know some great Muslims. And I love Muslims. There are some Muslims that I've grown up with who I have great friendship with. But they're not following the teachings of Islam. So separate Muslims as people, because everyone here, if you live in an area, you're going to know some nice Muslims. Whether it be a kebab shop worker, taxi driver, you're going to know some nice people. They're people, yeah? I don't talk about the people. I'm talking about Islam as an ideology. You need to stop Islamic immigration. You need to get control of the prisons. They're going to build an army through your prisons, because they're building an army through ours. The last prison I was in for my film, Solitary Confinement, as I said, Muslims make up 6% of the UK. 40% of the prison was Islamic. 40%. Yeah, 40%. They're converting an army, and no one's stopping them. So, and that's happening here. It's going to be happening in the United States of America. You need a massive wake up. America needs to look at Europe and see where we failed and just end it, stop it.
I like what he says about America needs to look at Europe and see where we failed, because ain't that the truth?
5 to 6% of the population committing 90% of gang-related SAs.
Yep.
And
So
30% of them are named
but what's
Mohammed.
fucked up? What's fucked up that he says, and actually, what's fucked up is that they won't report on one another, right? Their allegiance is between one another. And this leads me to the Islamification of the United Kingdom. Okay? We're going to dive into why all of what you reported is happening, because I think this is probably a point. The population of the UK is 69 million. Okay. The Muslim population, however, is 4 million. That represents around 6% of the population. Now, here's what 6% of the population leads to. With only 6% of the population, they've managed to elect the mayor of London. So, the mayor of London is Muslim. The mayor of Birmingham is Muslim. The mayor of Leeds is Muslim. The mayor of Blackburn is Muslim. The mayor of Sheffield is Muslim. The mayor of Oxford is Muslim. The mayor of Luton is Muslim. This never ends. The mayor of Oldham is Muslim, and the mayor of Rochdale, don't know, is Muslim. This is what only 6% of the population have been able to do in the UK. Over 3,000 mosques exist in the UK. I'd be surprised if that's not more than churches now, right? And the UK, by the way, has a state religion, the Church of England, right? With the king, the head of state, as the guardian of the faith. It's part of his name, his title, guardian of the faith, or protector of the faith. Sorry, that's what he says. There are now more than 50 Sharia councils across the UK and 130 Sharia courts in the UK. I don't even understand how that can exist. How could a separate, a different, a altogether incompatible legal system exist within the common law English system? Don't ask me. 78% of Muslim women do not work, and as such receive state support and free accommodations. 63% of Muslims do not work and receive state support and free accommodation. Now let's look at the birth rate. Muslim families have on average 3 kids per woman, while the British birth rate is only 1.41. So there's twice as many Muslim kids being born every year than British kids being born. Every school in the UK now requires Islam to be taught. The most common baby name in the UK is, of course, Mohammed. I don't want to sound alarmist, but the Anglo-Saxon is being replaced.
In the UK, 100%.
Yeah. And then it leads to the numbers you quoted. It just does. It's. I mean, unless you can identify what's changed in the last 20 years.
If you've been doing any research about the UK, you should know about the grooming gangs and the stuff that these people do. Essentially, they will kidnap young children, put them in human trafficking type of environments, and commit assault. And they will create rings around it. And this is a real phenomenon. You cannot just sweep that one under the rug. It has to be addressed fully. You go, like Tommy Robinson was talking about Luton, Luton, that city, where this has become such a disaster for that place. and ignoring it and trying to be culturally sensitive and going the liberal route of, oh no, we just have to like find a way to get along and everyone can get along, and it doesn't work. It does not apply to this situation. We're talking about like violent offenders committing crime. And they're immigrants. Yeah. They're not from the UK. Essentially, you're being invaded by barbarians.
But why aren't they being deported? Like, I mean, isn't that common sense? You come to a foreign nation and you commit a crime. Why are you still welcome?
They're softer on crime because of that. This happened in Canada. This happened in Canada recently, and I'd love to... there was a judge who gave a softer sentence to a criminal who, I gotta look this up. I'm not gonna just like.
Well, I think what it is that they utilized their origin, their background, as a lessening factor in the sentencing of their crime, something like that. Now let's bring it back to Canada, because guess what? Like you said so eloquently in the start of the show, it's the 10-year anniversary.
Yes, it is.
Of the Liberal Party being officially in power in Canada. It's been a decade, guys. It's been a decade. Do you remember the day that Trudeau was elected?
Yeah, we were all very happy because he was going to legalize weed.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
What a disaster that turned out.
He did, at least.
Yeah, he did. At least he followed his one promise.
At least now you can get high to forget about how shitty life is. I remember the morning post-election. I woke up before heading to the office. And I remember vividly, and I'm not making this up, thinking to myself, well, this is going to suck for the next 4-ish years ahead. Never in my worst nightmare could I have fathomed just how fucking bad it got because of the Liberal government. I mean, I thought, okay, well, they're going to try to take my guns away from me, and the economy is going to like it's going to stagnate a bit, and like whatever. They're going to pass a bunch of like gay rights shit. Like, that's what I thought it was going to be as bad.
That's all it's going to be. Yeah, they'll add the country in a bit of debt, and, you know, we're going to solve it at some point. But I didn't think that we would be in the financial gutter like we are today. And you know what? I would love to
run through
take the stage here and really show so much stuff. So, if you've been following the headlines, you know, Stellantis left Canada.
Absolutely.
And this is Melanie Joly's response to Stellantis leaving Canada.
Well, let me be clear on Stellantis. I'm extremely disappointed about this decision, and not only am I disappointed, it's completely unacceptable. So we will fight for these jobs. We will fight for the jobs at Brampton. We'll fight for the jobs that were committed by Stellantis, and we'll fight for our auto sector. I've been in contact with Lana Payne, the head of Unifor, yesterday and today. I've been in contact with Flavia Volpe, who's an important voice in the sector. We've been working hand in glove also with the Ford government, and we're one strong Team Canada together.
What a useless response, okay?
Oh, God.
Completely useless. Why do you think Stellantis left Canada? Do you think Stellantis left Canada because Canada is like this safe haven for business investment?
Yeah, see, that's the issue, right? They're pandering to I don't want to say an ignorant voter base, but perhaps an ignorant voter base who don't quite understand that companies like Stellantis going to the US, they're not doing it out of the kindness of their heart, because it requires a lot of investment and a lot of headache to move such operations to a new country.
Absolutely.
They don't want to do it.
And the only reason they would take on that headache is if the government is giving them an even bigger headache, which we know the Liberals do to business, because we have the proof here.
That's a good point. Right on.
You know, and Canadians paid Stellantis $52.5 billion of corporate subsidies were earmarked for EVs, and $15 billion were for Stellantis. Okay, so in another episode, we said $1 billion is about $45 per taxpayer, right? So $15 billion times 45. The average Canadian can cry about wasting $675 of their tax money on this useless subsidy to open a business in a country where the government is fundamentally useless in understanding the needs of the business community. Stellantis did not leave because there were these evil, malicious capitalists. They left because they have a better opportunity bringing their business down to the United States, where Donald Trump is welcoming them with open arms, saying, yes, come invest in the United States of America.
Yeah.
Donald Trump has driven almost $20 trillion of investment from huge companies with his tariff war. Now, I'm not going to say that the tariffs have just been a gleaming success. There are obviously terrible side effects that come with the tariffs. But to onshore $20 trillion of relevant business, we're talking about Apple, we're talking about TSMC, a semiconductor manufacturer, onshoring to the United States. We don't have that in Canada, and we have very similar resources. And the only difference we have is a liberal government that is completely anti-business, anti-growth, anti-economy.
Absolutely.
No matter how much they posture on this, no matter how much they say, oh, we're fighting for those jobs, we're fighting for that country, just look at the tax brackets in this freaking country, and that'll answer your entire question.
And the interesting thing is that I remember we spoke about it on the show almost a year ago when the tariffs were being discussed. And Curtis made a good point. He said Trump is on a mission to reshore the manufacturing potential of the U.S. And that's exactly what he's doing. And we're suffering. And we're suffering not because of Trump's moves. We're suffering because
the lack of our own.
Exactly. It's our own doing.
You know, Kevin O'Leary really hammered the Liberals this week on specifically why Donald Trump hates Chrystia Freeland.
Good, so do I.
But this really summarizes the practices of the Liberal Party of Canada. This is how they think they're helping the country. Or let's be honest, they're extremely malicious people from my perspective anyways. But this is what Kevin O'Leary had to say.
Do you think that the pursuit of the 51st state, that's over, or are we going to get back on that at some point? What's your view?
You have to understand the nature of Donald Trump and what happened with two people in Canada. Justin Trudeau, who I call the Idiot King, and Freeland. When they came down before the inauguration to Mar-a-Lago, I was there. I didn't realize how toxic that relationship is, and I thought it was mostly Trudeau. I was wrong. It was Freeland. Trump hates her. And
why?
Why? Because if you recall in his first mandate, she started throwing barbs, and it was also with Trudeau at him 2 years into his first term, all over the world, when there was tensions, little tensions, but they started, and he is like an elephant, he doesn't forget. But she also is radioactive waste in Mexico, Egypt, India, and China. She is the most incompetent politician that we've ever had in Canada. She had no executional skills, didn't understand policy whatsoever. And remember, she had pretty broad mandates. She had deputy prime minister. She was finance minister. The reason we lost billions in investment was when she proposed a capital gains tax, which was absurd in the G7, because she had no idea what she was doing. But when Carney went down to the White House for the first meeting, Trump specifically fingered her out and said, don't bring her back here. And she was still in cabinet. Now, luckily, he whacked her, and that's so important for
Well, now we know what's going to happen in Ukraine. She's going to fuck it all up there.
We're talking about the former Deputy Prime Minister of Canada, who was in power for a very long time, being hated by the leader of the free world. Okay? What that should tell every single voter in Canada is that your government is not understanding the needs of the international is not understanding international concerns, is not understanding U.S. concerns, is not willing to understand U.S. concerns, is not educated enough to address U.S. concerns. Chrystia Freeland was an appointed finance minister who had a background in Russian literature. Okay, she doesn't understand finance. She doesn't understand stock markets. This girl is completely, like you said, completely incompetent. And she was driving fiscal policy in this country.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, and have you seen the Canadian dollar lately?
Well, it's not doing good.
Well, let's take a quick look at the Canadian dollar, okay? And we thought that, the market rather thought that, Carney comes in, we have a strong leader, potentially anyways, come in, and the Canadian dollar rallied to about 74, 73 US.
Love the word rally.
Rallied, yeah. Actually,
we're far away
complete dumpster fire, to be honest.
We're far away from parity like we used to have.
Yeah, and now we're back down to 71 cents US, okay? And we have been downtrending for several years, as you can see by this 5-year chart. We're talking about, let's see how the Canadian dollar has performed since Stephen Harper left office compared to the US dollar, okay?
I miss those days, eh?
2011. 99 cents US. We're averaging over 80 cents US throughout Harper's time in office. Okay, this is elbows up. Let's just be honest here. This is what elbows up looks like. A dollar at almost parity with our US counterparts, which gives us a ton of leverage to negotiate trade deals with our natural resources. It gives us leverage to work with the Americans, expand our own infrastructure, expand our businesses. Because we have leverage, we have less debt, we have a lot more money in the bank, and people want to work with us. People don't want to work with broke-ass Canada, $2 trillion in federal debt, a Canadian dollar tanking to 71 cents US, and probably headed to the 60s.
Back again to
and
the
is going to
60s,
stay at the 60s. That's my bet. I think the Canadian dollar is going to sit at like 65 to 69 cents US for probably 3 to 5 years until clueless liberals wake up and decide we need a new government. Let's vote for Pierre Poilievre.
Yeah, the having a weaker loonie, a weaker dollar helps only one thing, and it's exports, because it makes our exports more attractive, right? But the thing is, we don't really export much because we refuse to explore our natural resources. See, if we said, look, right now shit's not going good economically, so we're going to take advantage of the fact that our dollar is not really being loved by the international community, and we will start exploiting like maniacs our natural resources, and we will export it, sell it abroad, since it's more attractive to the rest of the world because it's cheaper, and this will boost our economy and we will get out of the gutter. I'd be like, you know what? You're an entrepreneur as much as I am. Shit happens, man. Challenges occur, problems arise, there's fires to put out. But you take the shots and you roll with them and you make the best as you can.
Mm-hmm.
Tate said this once, and I do agree with Tate when he says this. He's like, even when you're playing chess and you are losing, even if all the moves on this chessboard leads to a loss, there's still a best move to make no matter what. So our loonie sucks. Okay, let's get over it. Let's extract our resources and sell it abroad. We'll make more money and our loonie will be better.
They had a decade to address these issues.
Yeah,
okay, they've had since 2020, since COVID, to really fix these issues, probably shrink the size of government and let the free market kind of do its thing.
Yeah.
When Melanie's like, when Melanie Joly is saying we're fighting for those jobs, or you don't need to fight. You need to sit down and shut up and shrink the size of your government and let these businesses do what they need to do. We don't need you to fight. We need you to create opportunity for businesses to come in by shrinking the size of the government, by cutting down taxes. So Canadians so people can look at Canada and say, wow, Canada is a place where I want to put some money.
Yeah,
I want to invest in this country. It's tax friendly. I could start a business there. It's easy. Like the approvals are quick. I don't have so much red tape. I could start my enterprise there, and then that creates jobs. And let's take a look at the results that these ridiculous, brain dead policies have caused in this great country. Let's take a look at business investment per capita, Canada versus the US, okay? You can see that we were pretty much in line with the US up until 2015.
Yeah, it's pretty much
right here.
lines up, yeah.
Business investment in Canada has fallen while it is rising in the US. Let's take a look at it. Let's take a look at something else. In the OECD, real GDP per capita growth projection between 2025 to 2030. So this is our projections for growth compared to the rest of the world in the next 5 years.
Yeah.
Okay. Canada is second to last.
Nice.
Okay.
I can't wait to eat the bugs.
And you know, we were talking about what is the government doing? What is the government doing about this? How is Mark Carney going to address this? No, it's not nothing. It's worse than nothing.
Oh,
They're
nice.
doing horrible things. Automatic tax filing announcement met with mixed reactions. So the CRA, and this was brought to Canadians' attention by Franco Terrazzano by the Canadian Taxpayer Federation. I want to give a quick shout out to this guy. I've been following him for many years, okay? And he does not get the attention he deserves by the Canadian population. Franco Terrazzano is someone who brings some excellent, relevant economic data to Canadians consistently with the Canadian Taxpayer Federation. His website is excellent. It shows our country's debt. He's constantly bringing out great facts. And this is something that he is bringing out to Canadians' attention, that the CRA acting as both the tax filer and tax collector is a serious conflict of interest. Trusting the taxman to do your tax return is like trusting your dog to protect your burger. And he's talking about the CRA trying to, and Prime Minister Carney trying to, what they call simplify filing your taxes by essentially automating it and leaving it in the power of the government. And so Franco Terrazzano is taking the initiative to bring this to our attention. And I think Canadians should really follow his channel, Canadian Taxpayers Federation, and follow what this guy has to say, because he's been bringing great information to Canadians and he does not get the clout he deserves.
More, by the way, than just follow it, right? It's a non-for-profit, so you can become a member and you can, buy a membership. So to support the organization, I think they do a great job indeed.
Absolutely.
I had the chance to meet, I don't know if it was Frank or one of his colleagues, but at an event at the Forest and Stream Club, a private club I used to be a member at, which is a very conservative club, by the way. I had a chance to meet one of the Canadian Taxpayer Federation staff member, founder, whatever, don't remember his name. He was a good guy, though, had great conversation. I got lost a little bit in the whiskey, though, but it's things that happen.
So let's take a look at a result of a decade of lowering business investment in this country, okay? Nick Nanos from Nanos Research did a poll, and let's take a look at what he had to say.
Next generation of Canadians, what do they think about their standard of living? Where do they expect to be?
These are killer stats, Roger. We track every 90 days. We ask Canadians whether they think that the next generation will have a higher, lower, or the same standard of living. In the latest round that we just completed a couple of weeks ago, 8%, Roger. Only 8% think that the next generation will have a higher standard of living. Almost 2 out of every 3 Canadians, 64%, think that the next generation will have a lower standard of living. And, the thing is, that negativity on the lower standard of living has increased since the election from 59 to 64. Now, I guess one way to look at it, if we go way back, the thing is that, we see that those negative numbers have been as high as 70. But the fact of the matter is, today, Canadians are 8 times more likely to think that the next generation will have a lower standard of living.
That's rough.
So just take a look at this chart here, okay? May 2012. Stephen Harper is prime minister. The Conservatives are in power. 52% of Canadians, so 26, think that their future standard of living for the future generation is going to be either higher or around the same. So what that tells me is that 52% of Canadians thought the country was pretty much on a good place or it's going to get better. Compared to now, only 8% of Canadians think it's going to be better, and only 31% of Canadians think it's going to be either better or the same. That is, a 40% drop in optimism for the future of this country.
A huge difference.
It's stark.
But it's also seen also in self-reporting data, right? So over here, I have data from And this is like crowdsourced data. So it's mostly from a website called Numbeo. It compares different standards of living and things between countries. In 2013, in terms of quality of life, this is the quality of life index based on user-reported data, and it has a pretty large N number, so lots of sample size. Canada ranked number 5, and they looked at various things like purchasing power, safety, healthcare, cost of living, property price to income ratio, traffic commute time, pollution, climate. It looks at a lot of variables. Canada ranked 5th behind Sweden, but ahead of the UAE and ahead of places like Denmark and Norway, like great countries.
Great, fantastic places to live.
Yeah, so Canada, this was us in 2013, not that long ago, right? That's 12 years ago. Today, 2025, what do you think our ranking is? Before I show you the juicy details.
20th?
You know what? That would have been great, but sadly we're 27th. We have dropped all the way down to 27. We are behind Belgium, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, fucking Czech Republic. I love the Czech Republic, but I mean, fuck, I've been, and
Lithuania has a better
Lithuania,
than
Croatia,
Canada.
Slovenia. Estonia, a great country. I've been many, many times as well. Love Estonians, but it's again, they're former Soviet bloc countries.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's what they are. Like 20 years ago or 30 years ago, they were part of the Soviet Union. You know what I mean? So that is not cool. That is not fun. And now you're gonna say yes, but these again, those are. Woo! These are self-reported numbers. It's not experts. Well, I do trust a large group of people, a lot more than I trust 1,000% more these little small groups of experts who get grants from the federal government.
You know what I think is contributing to this Canadian misery we're seeing?
Ooh, what is it?
Housing prices and food prices and housing availability and those three things: housing availability, housing prices, and food prices. Okay, like core things we need for core survival.
Yeah, well, the consumer price index, right? That's what it is ultimately.
Does the CPI factor those things?
Yeah. The CPI is housing and it's food. Yeah.
Okay,
for sure.
Okay, so let's take a look at this. So condo project cancellations hit record high as sales fall to 35-year low.
Condo project cancellation hit record high. Yeah.
So people are canceling condo projects. I believe
for
it's
sure.
in Toronto.
Yeah, that's Toronto. That's Daniel. I'm actually meeting with him Saturday.
He posts some great stuff.
Oh, he's fucking great.
Yeah,
he focuses on real estate and economy more than anything, but he's fucking fact driven.
Condo project cancellations hit record high as sales fall to 35-year low.
Yep.
35-year low. I'm 32 years old, so basically before I was born. Okay.
Right.
The plateau in Canadian home prices. This is by Valerie Insights. Okay, they did essentially a Oxford. This is from Oxford Economics, actually. Okay. They see the price dipping in 2026 a little bit. So the prices have dipped a little bit, but they're still some of the highest in the OECD.
They're some of the highest, but we have pulled back almost 17% already.
Despite that 17%, our prices are still some of the highest.
For sure.
And so what this chart shows is that housing prices are expected to continue to go higher and higher. Okay, this is while the economy is projected to be the second worst growing in the OECD in the next 5 years. Isn't that what we showed in the earlier chart? You remember that?
Yeah.
Okay, so what that is stagflation. This is what economists call stagflation, when the prices of commodities and things are going up, but the underlying economy is either stagnant or shrinking. And so...
But it's okay, because we have Freeland called it vibe session, bro. We're in a vibe session.
It's just a vibe session,
It's a vibe session.
People are according to her, people are just pessimistic about the economy, which is what's making the economy look worse.
That's why we're in a vibe session.
Oh my God.
So you pointed out the housing prices, right? So they're going to continue to go up, which I'm happy because I own property. So boo, yeah, motherfucker, I'll be rich. Even though I'll be poor because I won't be able to afford a basket of goods. But it's okay. At least I'll have a very expensive house. But let's talk about baskets of goods. I have a little comparison here. Okay. Unless you do as well.
No, I'd love for you to see.
Because you mentioned housing and then you mentioned food. I have food price comparison here.
Great.
Germany versus Quebec. I feel like we haven't spoken about Quebec in a while. All right, for real. I'm going to compare the cost of groceries between Germany, Deutschland, and Quebec, my favorite province of them all. All the prices here are converted in Canadian dollars. This is not euros, USD, this is CAD, Canadian dollars, right? So let's start with mandarins. In Germany, in Deutschland, $2.76. In Canada and Quebec, $7.99. 12 eggs, $3.91 in Germany, $4.15 in Canada and Quebec. Not too bad. Not big a difference here.
It's a 25 to 30% difference, my friend.
No, that would be an extra dollar. It's $3.91 to $4.15.
Yeah, it's close to 30% more.
Oh, it's like 25 cents.
Is it?
I think it's like 30 cents.
Okay.
10%.
Scratch this out of the conversation.
10%. Mathematics. All right. Baby Bell cheese. You know those little cheese? I fucking love those Baby Bell cheese, right? $4.56 in Germany, $9.99 in Quebec. Oat milk. Ugh, I don't drink that shit, but some people are weird. $1.47 in Germany, $5.99 in Quebec. A real loaf of bread, not the cheap bullshit, right? A real loaf, like actual from the bakery. $1.95 in Germany, $7.99 in Quebec if you go to Première Moisson. A salmon fillet.
You know, this when they say like inflation is so low, the CPI is measuring the inflation so well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Salmon fillet, $6.52 in Germany, $13 in Quebec.
Yeah.
Red wine, because we need a good stiff drink after these numbers. $4.07 in Germany, $12.50 in Quebec. 6 pears, $2.44 Germany, $6.99 Quebec. Cucumber, $1.13 Germany, $2.99 Quebec. 1 kilo of meat, $14.26 Germany, $18.99 Quebec.
And I don't think these prices are that different nationwide.
Oh, no, for sure. For sure. Actually, it's more expensive elsewhere. Quebec, just so the people know, Quebec is actually one of the lower cost provinces because we also earn less than other provinces. Prices are higher in Ontario, definitely in Alberta as well. And lastly, olive oil, the Italiano, $9.79 in Germany versus $15.99 in Canada. Now, I just want to put this in context because the average salary of a German is 55,000 euros, which equals to almost just shy of $90,000 Canadian, while the average in Canada is $64,000. So they are earning almost $30,000 more per year, and yet every single item I listed are anywhere between 15 to 50% cheaper.
Insane. And we pay insane taxes just to be able to buy those groceries.
Oh yeah, this does not account into the taxation of everything, by the way. Although I do have to say Germany has something stupid, which is called a church tax. I'm against it. I'm against any kind of tax. But it's okay. The UK also has stupid shit like the tube license. They have to pay license for a TV. It's fucking dumb. Anyways.
And look, that Nanos poll that came out, 92% of Canadians think that the next generation is going to be worse off.
Yes.
These kinds of stats that you're showing paint that picture very clearly, because when food is like 50 to 100% more expensive, like something you need every single day, 3 times a day for most people.
Well, some Canadians already spend upwards of half their income on housing alone.
Yeah.
Then you count in, you multiply or you factor in the cost of food. Canadians are not okay, bro.
And they spend more on taxes than food and housing combined, and clothing. So just think about that. Just think about this clueless, out-of-touch government that allows this to go on without addressing this directly head-on. This is the result of a decade of garbage policies by garbage politicians. Let's take a look at this.
But I do want to say, because I know you like to hammer the liberals, and you have this vendetta, and I don't like the liberals. I hate them very deeply as well. But this is deeper than just the last 10 years have been shit. Don't get me wrong. But I mean, Canada has been spiraling more and more into encroaching on taxes and money from citizens for for generations now. Now, mind you, it's true the last conservative government under Harper did lower the GST, and I welcomed that. That was a beautiful move. We didn't really feel it in Quebec because the Quebec government subsequently raised the PST, the Quebec sales tax. But in general, governments, conservatives and liberal, over the last 40, 50, 60 years, have just been implementing more and more and more taxes on everyone.
The difference is no one has printed more dollars than the Trudeau Carney liberals. Okay,
that's true.
No one has added more debt. So not only have they printed our currency into oblivion, they also racked up our debt to unprecedented levels, where it's, I think, $30,000 per man, woman, and child in this country
of debt. Yeah, something like that.
There was a statistic that came out a few years ago around that. It like boggled my mind that Canadians are so unaware of the taxation system and how corrupt it is, and that they allow this to happen.
For sure. Don't forget too, and people need to realize that, right? I saw this made me laugh about there was a comment on one of our videos. You were talking about the UK digital ID, right? So you were really hammering that point, and someone commented something along the line of, well, we can just stop working and they'll have to back down because they need their tax dollar. And I laugh because I'm just like, well, first of all,
You
the
need
government
your food a little more.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm like, the government's gonna survive longer than you can without food. But the funny thing is, the government doesn't need your tax dollars. There's another tax that they can collect at will without your consent.
Printing money and causing inflation.
There you go. See, the thing is, when you print money, it is absolutely like a tax that is spread across everyone, because now all of a sudden the money and the assets you have are worth. Well, the assets are going to go up in price, but the money you have is going to be worth less.
And the people that it affects the most is the working class and like low to middle income earners, people earning under, I would say, $70,000 to $80,000 a year.
Effectively, Canadian, people who don't have assets, right?
Essentially, and these are the people that are being driven into like homelessness, drug addiction. Let's take a look at Toronto Union Station today.
That's a nice welcoming committee.
This is the country the Liberals have brought us to.
It's beautiful.
Okay, let's take a look at this random park in Hamilton, Ontario.
Right. Is this a safe injection site?
No, it's just Union Square. Take a look at this.
Father pushing his kids on the swings. Every single person on the bench is high, passed out.
Kids are playing,
Get rid of this bench.
and right next is just passed out drug users.
We deserve better. There's a skate park for your kids to visit. Would you bring your kids here?
Yeah, we're a
Do
nation
better,
in decline,
Hamilton.
that's for sure, man.
We are falling apart. Our dollar is tanking. Our debt is spiraling. People are more miserable than ever. 92% of Canadians think that their future generations are going to be worse off than they are today. And the Liberals think it's justifiable to spend another $500 million on Ukraine. 4 million visits to food banks, and we got $500 million more going to Ukraine.
Nice. I love my tax dollars going to be used for people to kill each other with.
You know, and the state of Canada for Canadians is one thing, but our, you know, earlier you were saying that we were riding on our reputation, which is what made which is what made people from all around the world, you know, respect Canada, love Canada, dream of going to Canada one day and living in Canada.
Yeah.
Well, this is what Canada looks like on the international stage right now today. This is a headline that I saw this week, and it really painted a stark contrast on where our country is headed, okay? Canadian beer kills 21-year-old in Auckland, New Zealand. Now, this is a shocking headline.
I mean,
but
it's also kind of funny.
It's funny that it's like a beer killed a 21-year-old kid in Auckland, New Zealand. Like, what the hell is going on? Well, turns out that it was smuggled liquid meth.
Ah, nice.
And this uncovered a huge meth smuggling ring. Let's take a look here. 21-year-old was excited to try Honey Bear beer from Toronto.
Nice.
Okay, the kid was excited to try Canadian beer for the first time. We thought it was a new brand that's about to start up in New Zealand, and we saw the Canadian logo, the Canadian flag logo, and said, oh, cool. We thought it was from Canada. That's pretty cool then. But it was liquid methamphetamine, which smugglers then process into crystal meth. And this uncovered a huge smuggling ring in New Zealand, where police say Baltej Singh, once again brandishing the name Singh, absolute disgrace to the Sikh community. The local supermarket had imported large amounts of meth disguised as beverages into New Zealand in recent years. They included shipments of kombucha from the US, coconut water from India, and nearly 29,000 cans of this honey bear beer from Toronto. From 2020 to 2024, New Zealand seized more meth from Canada than any other country in the world. 1,200 kilograms with an estimated street value of $350 million. This has become our new natural export. Forget lumber, forget oil, forget natural gas, forget, manufactured goods and a thriving consumer economy. We're exporting meth. We're going Walter White, full Walter White here in this country.
This reminds me of there was these two girls that got caught in Australia with cocaine, like 15 years ago. I don't know if they became famous. They're from Quebec. They were like promised a free trip in exchange for like smuggling drugs, and they were sentenced to jail for like 15 years. Anyways,
according to an RCMP intelligence document, international gangs, including Mexican cartels, are increasingly using the Port of Vancouver as a launching point for shipments of methamphetamine bound for countries like New Zealand and Australia, where it fetches a higher price. This is how Canada is on the international stage these days.
Yeah.
Okay, $350 million of exported meth.
We should tax it.
We pay so much for our government, for the RCMP, for the CBC, for all these government institutions that are just letting a multi-$100 million meth ring operate out of Vancouver, BC.
The kickbacks must be incredible.
Dude, you know what else happens in Vancouver, BC, don't you?
Oh god.
Safe injection sites.
Oh, yes, that.
Government subsidized drugs.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's go. We're essentially creating like a drug cartel in this country through legal channels.
Absolutely. And then after that,
and then we're also the illegal market is exporting liquid methamphetamine, killing people, and our country's brand is on that death.
Well, ultimately, like I said, if we can find a way to tax it, we'll be happy.
What is the CBSA focused on? And you know about this.
Yeah.
Paper plates.
Paper
Not the methamphetamine and the fentanyl crisis.
Nope.
Paper plates. Let's go.
Paper plates.
Elbows up.
I love that. I love the fact that we have a paper plate. Yeah, no, it's look, Canada again, we're not doing too good. And the reputation, we're lucky in a sense we're still surfing on that 40 years ago reputation, but I think slowly but surely people are starting to realize, because look, you're realizing that a lot of people come here and they immigrate here and then they don't stay. There's a lot such thing. People come to Canada thinking it is the promised land that they were sold upon, and then they leave when they realize there's no work opportunity. The government takes half of your fucking money, things are falling apart, and people are not as nice as they thought they'd be.
And your country's becoming a freaking narcotic exporter.
Nice. I love it. Well,
Stellantis is out of here.
Well,
but at least we have narcotics to export.
I'm not even mad about Stellantis. Good for them. You know what? They did what every other Canadian aspires to do. You know what the Canadian dream used to be? It used to be have a home, a family, right, a good job, and living a quiet life. Now the Canadian dream is to get the fuck out of here. The whole point is to make enough money to get the hell out of this place.
Move to the U.S.
Yeah, and move to the U.S. Absolutely. That was a fuck. You hammered Canada. I feel hopefully some people in Canada will see that. Like, I mean, like in government will see
Liberals
this.
need to wake the hell up. That's just what it comes down to.
Yeah,
they need to educate themselves on the economy. They need to educate themselves on all these issues.
I wouldn't say that, because the problem is that by saying this, we rely on the Liberal government to fix things. I think what's important is that Canadians wake up.
That's what I'm talking about.
Okay, yeah.
Liberal and NDP voters need to educate themselves and understand these issues on a deeper level to be able to make much more informed decisions on who they're voting for, what the party's actually trying to do through their legislation, how their policies are affecting the country on a deep level when it comes to things like 92% of Canadians thinking that their future generations are going to be worse off.
But the thing is, it's one of the problems with the left, with the Liberals, with the NDP, which are even more to the left, is the fact that there is no diversity of thought. That's the issue, right? Because there's a scientific study that came out in the British Journal of Psychological Society, which analyzed, and this I found fascinating, they used some pretty novel methods to analyze diversity of thought on both sides of the spectrum, on the right side and on the left side. And it came up with a fascinating, I'm like rolling on myself right here. There we go. With a fascinating graph here. Let me show you what the graph looks like. And then we'll talk a little bit about it, because what you say is, the Liberals need to wake up, the NDP needs to wake up. I completely concur. But the entire premise from that side is that they won't wake up unless the group tells them to. So right here we have a nice little graph. It says there is more diversity of thought on the political right than the political left. Although they pride themselves on open-mindedness, liberal thinking actually coalesces around a very narrow set of opinions, whereas the right diverges widely. And what they did is that they gathered a bunch of people that identify more to the right and to the left. I read the study. It's fascinating stuff. And then they asked them a question about very divisive issues. And they wanted to see where they ranked on it, if they really believed in it strongly, or if they didn't believe in it strongly at all. Did they agree, disagree, etc.? And then they mapped where people rank. So what you're looking at here with this graph is every dot is an individual that lines up with the right. Their opinion is that we're, in this case, Republican voters. And this is where they lined up on the issues. They're way wider, which means that, for example, some individuals were very pro-abortion and others were very against abortion, but there were both thoughts within it. But when asked, someone who identifies and votes Democrats on the left, they were always 100% pro-abortion. There was no diversity of thought within that political ideology. Now, this is the issue. The Liberals and the NDP, they see themselves as the economy is just fine, and don't believe your own eyes. Don't believe your own eyes. I want to quote the results here. As shown in Figure 2b, the cluster reflecting the Democrat belief system almost exclusively contains extreme attitudes, as indicated by strong disagreement with each other, with each of the 8 items. Conversely, the cluster reflecting the Republican belief system contained a wider range of attitude responses, ranging from mild disagreement to maximum agreement, which means on the Democrat side, everything was always strong disagreement. Everything was always one way to see it, whereas the Republicans, like I mentioned, they had a wider spectrum. Some people disagreed mildly, some people believed and agreed widely, but it was never just for one kind of thing. So, in other words, if we just use more common speak, we can say that it appears that leftists can't think for themselves and thus rely on group consensus to form an opinion on all of their beliefs. I don't think personally they stand for anything, because to be honest with you, I decided, you know what, I sat down and I started thinking, what are some of the contradictions, some of the paradoxes that we hear all the time coming from left-leaning individuals? And these are the ones I wrote down. And by the way, if you come up with some of them, please tell me, because I find this fucking hilarious. But it just goes to show, I don't think they have convictions. They're just being told by the ruling authority, oftentimes the media or their party, this is how you should think, thus this is how you should behave, irrespective of the mental gymnastics that they oftentimes have to partake in to get to those points. The first one: feminism versus Islamic oppression. So there's strong advocacies for women's rights, but that kind of clashes with defending regimes like Iran that enforces hijabs and all the legal inequalities, or, countries like Syria or the Taliban's, or even Palestine, that will absolutely oppress women.
I have a great example for you.
Please do.
You're talking about feminism,
Yes.
right? How feminist is it for a woman to essentially wish she was dead because she regrets being born? Okay, check this out. I wish God had never created women. Let's just translate what she said, okay? I wish God had never created women. If we're going to be so unlucky...
I'm winking at the camera.
Then we might as well not live at all. We are being treated worse than animals. Animals can go anywhere on their own, but girls do not have the right to even step out of their homes. How feminist is that?
That is... But they support that, right? So that's one of the contradictions that I find. It's they'll support that, but then they'll die on the hill of feminism, right? That's the most important thing ever. Another one, free speech versus cancel culture. Defending expression against authority, yet endorsing deplatforming and firing people for views on things like gender or race, or, applying speech very selectively, or speech rights very selectively to favored narratives. That's another big thing the left does.
It's okay when Jimmy Kimmel gets censored. It's horrible. Sorry.
Yes.
It's horrible when Jimmy Kimmel gets censored. But when Donald Trump, the former president of the United States, gets kicked off of Twitter by a political activist, essentially, I think it was Jack Dorsey. What was his name? Yes. That's okay. For them, it's like a celebration day.
Yep.
When a political activist like Charlie Kirk is shot, they're chanting in the streets.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I've never seen right-wing violence towards the left on a political level like this.
Like that, no. But again, the paradox is that they say
compounding this with the Trump assassination attempt as well.
Sure.
So this is two major assassination attempts on major right-wing figures, which does not exist on the left. There is no contrast. Go ahead, sorry.
No, but they call themselves defenders of free speech, but they're not. They're absolutely not, that's for sure. Then there's the pro-choice, so my body, my choice, right? They love to say that. And so bodily autonomy, effectively, but then we contrast
vaccinations.
The vax. There you go.
The hypocrisy.
The vax. It's to get jabbed.
Then it's trust the science.
Exactly. You get chastised from society unless you do what we're told. Gun control versus defund the police. Guns are unnecessary due to police protection, but police are untrustworthy and underfunded, leaving citizens... but police are untrustworthy and as such... defunded, leaving citizens defenseless without any alternatives. Then we have environmentalists.
Oh my God.
What?
Oh, you actually said that. I have something to show you on that one as well. This is how Canadian law enforcement expects you to behave when your life is at risk. Like, such a great example you put out.
Premier can make his own statement and his own mind up about that. What I would say is, as our police service, we'll follow the laws as they're written. If the laws change, we'll change with the laws. But as it stands, we know the best defense for most people is to comply. As you've just heard, a number of safety recommendations will allow for those that are victimizing members in the community to leave and not harm anyone.
Pay all these taxes, submit to us, our massive bureaucratic state, but if someone comes to rob you, just comply.
Yeah, I know.
Just comply. Just give him the keys to your car. Just give him everything he wants. He's not going to kill you.
I made a video.
You don't know
that. I'm a gun owner and I believe in cancel doctrine, so having the right to defend your property. But no, here the police tells you that you should just give everything to the robbers, and if you defend yourself, you're the one who goes to jail. So yeah, no, that's another.
And the immigrants are the thieves. Like the crime statistics, because they cannot handle immigration, what you just described comes out.
Yep.
Defund the police. Police don't have enough,
Then we
clueless
have
liberals. Go ahead.
We have environmentalists versus open borders, right? So of course, climate policies are important to curb emissions via, stuff like green mandates and the carbon tax and population control. Don't have too many kids. But mass immigration swells U.S. and Canadian population by hundreds of millions in the U.S. by 2060 and tens of millions in Canada by 2050. Actually, we want to get to 100 million citizens, I believe, in Canada.
Yeah.
Thus spiking resource use and greenhouse gas emission. Anti-racism versus identity politics, right? So people on the left are staunchly anti-racism, right? Super anti-racist. Yet they enforce race quotas that prioritize group identities over individual abilities, thus entrenching division, right? That's DEI in short.
Yeah, let's just keep it simple. What has become non-racism has evolved into racism against white people.
Yeah.
That's what it's become.
Absolutely.
And I say this as a brown man.
Brown man approved. Workers' rights versus open borders. That's another big one. So, right, they always push for union power. It's very important to be unionized on the left. And for wages to be hiked, increase the minimum wage, increase workers' wages. But they are super lax on immigration control. And the truth is, immigration floods low-skill markets, suppressing native wages by up to 10%.
Yeah, and let's add this to it, okay? We want higher wages, we want better pay, we want better rights. But we don't care about the economy. We don't understand the economy.
Yeah,
we don't learn about the economy.
That's the thing. Then we have science worship versus selective denial, right? So they're championing evidential science, but rejecting certain scientific findings like IQ variations between individual groups, nuclear power. Nuclear power is dangerous and should never be exploited. Or something as basic as the scientific method, which encourage people to challenge ideas and to test hypotheses and never to blindly trust anything.
Not to trust the science, just don't challenge the science, trust the science, right?
Yeah, that's what they want. Just
That's
trust
what
the
they want,
science, right? Then we have diversity versus ideological exclusion. So they celebrate racial and gender inclusion as it is their religion, but they purge dissenters that don't think like them. Then we have the anti-capitalist versus the elite hypocrisy. So they love to say we need to tax billionaires and millionaires and eat the rich, they say. Yet Sanders and all the other liberal politicians, Trudeau and Carney, own multiple homes and jet set across various places for their climate agendas and are worth hundreds of millions of dollars. And let's not forget that most CEOs, most major billionaires are actually Democrats. and these people are more than happy to take their money and have their support so long as they turn around and attack who? Trump and Musk. Those are the two evil billionaires they want to tax, right? Lastly, anti-war versus proxy support. So they protested Iraq and they protest lots of conflicts as immoral, but they're more than happy to fund endlessly wars in Ukraine without questioning whatsoever the civilian costs behind it. So all these are just on top of my head. Honestly, I was like, what is the moral bankruptcy, the logical fallacy, not even the logical fallacies, the cognitive dissonance that I see daily with these individuals. That was a topic. Is there a couple that you can think of?
No, you hit it on the head, my friend.
Oh, there you go. On that, was there another point you wanted to bring?
No, I think we covered a lot of different topics today, and I think our viewers have a lot of
a lot to decant,
a lot to ponder,
a lot to decant. We should take this episode and send it straight to the Liberal HQ.
And get arrested because of Bill C2, C9, and C8.
It's not passed yet. We got to take advantage of it. We got to take advantage while we can, man. One day, let's put it this way, right? I think this is the moment where we have to say, none of us are suicidal and we love our families and our lives and we're not going to jump from a building. Correct? Say so, please, for the camera. You love your life?
If I disappear, it wasn't me.
Yeah, there you go. If we disappear.
Um,
Anyways, guys, appreciate you guys tuning in, and we'll see you guys next week. Thank you,
Yes, we
Simar.
will. Thank you.